Well, here's an M&A story very close to my own heart, of course. The New York Mets are very close to being sold to the billionaire hedge fund mogul Steve Cohen. Of course, he had previously been in a very close position to purchase the team late last year when things didn't quite get there. This time, he's hoping for more. This is a story we first broke on Friday evening. I'd been following it very closely. There were three bidding groups. A-Rod and J-Lo, of course, got a lot of attention. They had quite a few investors along with them. Harris Blitzer, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, private equity titans also, who own the Devils, who own the 76ers, also were amongst the bidders. But Mr. Cohen, of course, was thought to always have the financial wherewithal to actually come away with the prize. The question was whether or not he would, in fact, bid to a high enough level to do that. And again, as we told you late on Friday, in fact, he has entered exclusive negotiations. What does that mean? Well, they've still got to put the finishing touches on things. And as we said last time, they didn't quite figure it out. Now, last time was a little bit more complex. There was a 5-year management agreement that he was entered into with the Wilpon family, which controls the Mets and is the controlling shareholder, obviously would be the main seller here that you're negotiating with. There was also some dispute over costs that would come along with closing, is my understanding. And so while it may be only a couple of days away, and the hope is that they will sign a definitive agreement within the next couple of days, they aren't quite there. Still to come, of course, from Mr. Cohen as well would be approval from the owners of Major League Baseball. Now, as somebody who had thought at one time about was trying to buy the Dodgers, as minority owner of the Mets, there are some who would point to it and say, well, there may be some issues there. You never know, but that would be something of a surprise, at least to most of the people that I speak to, Carl and Leslie. But it was a strong auction, and it's a legitimate M&A story. The A-Rod-led deal from people familiar with the situation tell me they were willing to bid as high as $2.3 billion. They had a number of high-profile investors in there. Mark Laurie, the founder of Jet.com. You had Vinny Viola. You had, obviously, A-Rod and J-Lo in for as much as $250 million. You had J.P. Morgan's private bank willing to finance to some extent. They did put a statement out late Friday after our report indicating that they were no longer pursuing the team and saying that they were obviously very sad in some ways to be in that position. They said that they had commitment letters from creditworthy partners and that consortium, and they were ready to provide an exhilarating experience for the fans. But I'll tell you, as a longtime fan, Mr. Cohen most likely is also going to be able to provide a somewhat exhilarating experience given his deep pockets. And don't forget, Leslie, as somebody who also follows the hedge fund industry, he has done a great job at repurposing his business along the way, at changing it as he needed to some extent, and has proved to be a great businessman, many would say. Now, we all know, of course, about the problems with the SEC. I don't want to overlook that. But nonetheless, here he is still managing many billions that are not his, opened up once again for outside investors. So those of us who are longtime Mets fans are keeping our fingers crossed.
Well, we talk about comeback stories all the time in the sports world. Steve Cohen is trying to create a comeback story of his own, as you mentioned. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about the insider trading scandal that plagued his prior hedge fund, SAC. Here he is. He's relaunched his firm as Point72. You know, he had to operate it as a family office and then finally was able to manage outside money as of a few years ago. He's been able to raise the capital when no one said that he could do that, given, certain types of investors' hesitance surrounding, some of the scandal and the reputational hit that his prior firm took. He clearly has been able to overcome those challenges. He's been venturing into new areas. He's been doing more on the VC side. He has a quantitative, more kind of algorithmic style trading within his firm now, whereas it used to be more kind of traditional long-short equity. So he's definitely evolved. And I think Mets fans like yourself, David, are hoping that he can evolve the team for a nice little comeback as well. Maybe it is those deep pockets.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, listen, and it's, by the way, as an owner of the Mets, Carl, you and many of these teams, you have to be ready to take on losses, and that's going to certainly be the case here, particularly with no fans in the seats right now, and the prospect that even when we get to next spring, it's very much unclear exactly what attendance is going to look like in terms of in-person. So you're talking about a club that could lose as much as $100 million for this year, perhaps for next year. Those losses will subside, but you've got a payroll. You're going to want to increase it potentially to add some other stars. So it's not just what you pay, it's what you're willing to lose when it comes to one of these teams. Now, the purchasers of it, though, is sort of seen as an alternative asset class that over time appreciates greatly in value. But you're going to be paying for the privilege, so to speak. He's got plenty of money, though, Carl, at what, 14, 15 billion. He would be, I think, the wealthiest owner of a Major League Baseball club.